This is episode one. Welcome, everyone, to episode one with our amazing and inspiring host, Crystal Smith, Care to CEO. I had the pleasure of connecting with her today, and I am so excited for this episode because I've learned a little bit so far, and I'm so excited to learn more about
Yes, thank
you,
you.
how you got here, and everything in between. So let's just start off, Crystal. Um,
Okay, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here, and this is just like such a dream come true to be to be podcasting. I was saying to you before that, from someone that doesn't really come from a public speaking background or on camera background a year ago, this would have been a lot more scarier, but I'm grateful for this opportunity. Like you said, my name is Crystal Smith, and I am now a Care CEO. And I started, I would say in my 20s, working as a CNA. But really, to go back before that, where I even learned to be this person that cares for others was just naturally because my grandmother, who lived with us while I was growing up and cared for us while my parents worked. She eventually, at some point in time, fell ill. She had a stroke, but our entire lives, well, since we were born, my parents were able to work, and she was, I don't want to say she was a nanny, she was our great grandmother. She was, but she was our caretaker. I mean, she taught us everything. She taught us to garden. That was the person who cared for us. And in my early teens, she had a stroke, and she couldn't use one side of her body anymore. So then the roles changed. We had to start taking care of her. And my mother, she was very adamant about how we take care of our grandmother and that certain things be done. So it was like a chore, it was part of our chores. Like, you get done with you got the kitchen, you got the bathroom, and you better make sure that your great grandmother has her dinner and her room is clean. And if she, needs anything, you tend to her. My mother always referred to her as her queen. So just even listening to how my mother thought of her grandmother, because it was her grandmother, and she was specific about how we need to give her the best quality of care down to the meals. I can remember making her food and my mother looking at it and saying, I mean, the presentation is everything. You know what I mean? So no, she would. And so I didn't realize, during that time in my life that I was really learning how to be a CEO of a home care business. I was learning how to manage people, how to care for people. But really, I just thought I was taking care of my grandmother because she needed me, but I was also learning how to be an entrepreneur. And I think one of the reasons why now I have pivoted into mentorship is because I know that there are so many people out there that have that same background where you have a natural ability to care for others, and you have a natural bedside manner, and you budget, you do, you have all those skills, and these are transferable skills into this business. And I think that there's a great deal of healthcare workers out there that need to know that you could pivot into care, your own home care business, into starting your own home care business and earning a living doing so. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing. I know, and thank you for sharing all of that. I mean, I know I personally can relate to a little bit of the things you said, but it's true, going back to those qualities and how you think, oh, you're a caretaker and it's this one thing, and how you can actually take all those skills that you're
Yeah.
brought up with and take it to the
Right.
next level and be an entrepreneur. And I know before the business, before the council seat, before all the success that you've had so far, you know, tell me a little bit about your parents. I know that you said that they were always working, which is why you were always with your grandmother, but
Yes.
were either one
Well,
of them entrepreneurs?
so my father he wanted badly to be an entrepreneur. So that what me and my dad did every time we were around each other is we talked business. I mean, I'm talking since the time I can remember, as a small child. He talked to me about just different business opportunities. He taught me that you really can make a business out of anything. So we would bounce ideas off of each other, even when I was very young. You know, he might say, you know, that would be a good business. I mean, I don't care what it was. I could be talking about, I could show him a drawing I did at school. Okay, now, you know, you could become an artist, you could sell your work. I don't care what it was. And so, because we had those conversations so much as I got older, that is how my mind started to work as well. So I would say that aside from the fact that I come from a long line of caregivers, such as my mother is just a natural caregiver. Oh my goodness. That is we all say this in my family. If there's anything going on with you, that's the woman you want by your side. My mother is a caregiver by nature, but she is just an all around intelligent woman. You know, we were just talking about figuring things out. She may not have had some of the tools growing up that she needed, but she taught me how to figure it out, and
Awesome.
I did. Like, you could figure anything out. And so, that those are the makings of me, essentially. So, very excited about that.
So yeah, that's great. And not everyone has that opportunity and that foundation from their parents. So I think that that's definitely tied into you being as successful as you are. And where did you actually grow up, Crystal?
I grew up in Canton, Ohio, Hall of Fame City. And, my father was born in Alabama, on a farm. So my
Wow.
dad definitely has that work ethic, and my mother is a city girl. So she was definitely tough, but she's very, like I said, intelligent, just naturally knows how to figure things out. And yeah, and so I grew up a city a city kid with a parent who very much taught me good work ethic. I think just from his stories and just from his work ethic. And so being that we were raised by also with my great grandmother in the house, just learning things like gardening and canning. I mean, we did those things, when I was younger. We were picking from the garden and canning and storing it for the winter. So yeah, yeah,
That's definitely a unique experience. I'm sure some of our listeners might relate to that. As a New York City girl
yeah.
myself, I'm very impressed. That's
Okay.
something I'm not familiar with at all.
Right, right. And you're definitely a city girl,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm a I'm not. I don't know. I guess what a metro city girl, or I don't know what would be the right terminology for it. But
Well, I'm
yeah,
from New York, so that's a whole different a
right. It's a whole
whole
different
different
kind of
kind of city.
city girl experience, right? You were just telling me how you were getting on the train. Uh, it, I was like, wow. And growing up, New York is, oh my goodness, that was the place that I really just I wanted to go there. I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
it's
did.
definitely, worth the hype,
Yeah.
I would say.
An experience for sure.
Mhm.
Would take it
Absolutely.
it would keep you on your toes.
Ab That's one thing that it definitely does too.
Right.
And but, going back to what you were saying about caregiving, I'm curious, like, at what point or if there was at what point in your life or if there was a specific moment where you realized that caregiving wasn't just a job for you, it was who you were.
I just can't stress how naturally it comes. And I mean in different ways because I really started feeling that way as a teenager. Well, obviously because I was caring for my grandmother. And then there was times that our cousins lived with us. And so just the fact that my mother was the person my parents were the people that if someone needed to live with us, they took them in. And so opening our home, it's natural. And so even as an adult, once I pivoted into the home care industry, I've had to take people into my home. I've had to turn my home into a group home and care for children. So yeah, and before doing that, I was in childcare. So my home was a childcare center, but it was a 24-hour childcare center. So I've had kids stay overnight, and my children and I chose to get into that because I was raising my children. I thought I could stay home and I can make a living, but I could provide a service and and that's what I did. So opening my home is very natural to me. taking care of someone in need is just a natural it's just natural. So it's really weird to call it an ability. I'm not I'm not gonna lie, I struggle with that for a long time, like, an ability? I mean, like, as humans, shouldn't that just
Yeah,
be something we do? But, everyone I realize that now that is not something everyone can do at all. Like, there are so many people unwilling to let anyone into their home, let alone, take care of them. So
absolutely.
yeah, I realized that pretty young that, okay, you know, I can do this. And especially working in those nursing homes because you get to work and you're assigned a hall, right? And you don't know which hall you're going to get, but you probably got about 15 people or more on that hall that need cared for from that on that shift. They need fed, they need bathed, they need changed, their rooms need cleaned, and then you got to document it at the end of the shift. Often you didn't have any help. You're lifting people you shouldn't be lifting. You're dealing with sometimes superiors that were maybe not the nicest, and you were underpaid. You were completely underpaid. It was really in those spaces, I would say, just looking around, like I just managed a whole, you know what I
Right,
mean? I just managed a whole shift here, like a whole hall. I managed a whole floor, um,
right.
me and like two other people. I can do this. I just need to know who and how, where, to start. And that part took a while to find out because initially the information wasn't easy to find. But eventually, because I think it's my calling, the information found me. I didn't have to look for it. I just had to keep on moving, and eventually it came to me.
That's awesome. And I know, like, you kind of just touched on this too about at the end of your shift, like thinking about how you basically just managed the whole floor, but starting
Hmm.
as a CNA and like working those long shifts and those long hours in those early days, what did it really teach you about yourself and also about the healthcare system?
Oh, it showed me how much was lacking in the healthcare system. It showed me how out of touch people are with what really goes on. It showed me how when you're what they call at the bottom, CNA, just an STNA, a home health aide, how people really don't value you when, and in fact, you should be held up because we're the glue that really helps keep everything going because you need those workers. To provide that care to residents, to individuals, whatever it may be. So
Those are
I
the
I
hardest
really started
jobs.
to see that how much we were underdogs. And I didn't like that. And so I thought to myself eventually, I'm going to get out of this situation and I'm going to take some people with me and I have. So I definitely went from changing bed sheets to changing lives at some point in time. And I mean, on the staffing side, I would say I have people who have come to work with me, for me, or that I've just shown how to start. And I've definitely have individuals from children to elderly, who have been my clients, whose lives I've changed, my team have changed, and given them a better quality of life.
That's so inspiring. Like that's I think such a wonderful way to grow a business too is by taking people with you and because you know who they
Yes.
are and you know how hard they
Yeah.
work and it's something
Yes.
you
Yes.
relate to. I think that that's
Yes.
incredible.
Absolutely. And just, and so since I've done it, it's just important to let other people know that you can do it as well. Now, I don't think that every CNA or healthcare worker is meant to be a CEO. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it. Not everyone is meant to run a business. But, for those who this is your calling and you just need to know how, you need some guidance, you need a nudge in the right direction. Yeah, people like me are out there to help.
Yeah.
Certainly, I had mentors, that guided me. Thank goodness. Like I said, but they came. God sent what I needed.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I know you've also said before that no one's going to care about you more than you. So can you
Right.
share like a moment or a memory when you realized that you really needed to take control of your own future?
Well, at some point in time, I was a single mother, and I had my 2 oldest children at the time, and it was pretty challenging time for myself at that time. I would say really even my parents. It was a challenging time for everyone, and it was just one of those moments that like a whole year. I don't know. I feel like I went through a whole season. I want to say, honestly, looking back, I don't even know how long it lasted. That time I remember it lasted for a long time, and it was just like, oh my goodness, just don't give up, keep going. You know what I mean? Just keep moving and just know that things are going to get better. But all the while, I knew that I need to be, positioning myself, to do better. I need to learn this business. I need to, work. I need to get myself around people who are already doing this. And that's what I did. And thank goodness eventually, you know, the rest is history.
I got you this far, right? So that instinct in you really, really worked in your favor and really took you this far. And I'm sure it's going to take you even so much further. And when you spoke about wanting to start your own business and having that instinct within you that you wanted to take control of your future, when you did open your first childcare business, were you scared? What doubts did you have? And how did you really push through that?
So at the time, again, this was really, looking back, I think this was probably one of the most challenging times of my life because it just, oh my goodness, it was one of those seasons of probably about, I don't know, 5 to 7 years of just like things just really not working out. And I used to babysit my sister's kids as well. And then I had, my young ones. And so I was like, something's, there's got to be something. And so I just started looking into it. And I eventually just started, I took the classes, I did everything I needed to do. It didn't happen right away. There was definitely some challenges in starting. I had to prepare my home. But it was just like anything else in my life. It was like a process. It was like, oh my goodness, but I don't have anything that I need for childcare. Then I started going to other childcare providers and they're like, oh, here, look, I don't need this. Here's a bookshelf. Here's books. Here's toys, and it was so great. Then they're like, oh, here's some curriculum that I've created. I mean, it was just amazing because I was definitely afraid. I was afraid, but I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I don't care. And as soon as I started walking, which is just what I've learned in life with anything, just start moving, just start going in that direction. And what you need comes. It starts to come. And before you knew it, I had a whole child care center. My house looked like literally like a child care center. All the stuff on the walls, everything. And yeah, eventually, and I got there. And before you knew it, I stayed. I think the entire 10 years that I operated my daycare from home, I don't think I was ever low in enrollment. And I didn't even need to advertise. I got to the point that I didn't need to advertise. I had people calling me left and right. I had to often turn people away. That experience also taught me just the need for support because many of the mothers, the parents that I served, they didn't have support. Many of them. I was their support. They may not even have the other parent involved. They may have been single parents. They didn't have their parents. And so I definitely the person they called for everything. I mean, I've had them call me for a flat. "Oh my God, Miss Crystal, I have a flat." I'm like, "Okay, I'm on my way." Like, that's how it was. Like, I was such a full service childcare provider. It was just it was amazing now that I look back, that I could do that. So again, that is something that allowed me to expand myself because I didn't even know that I could be that person that was like this single person that was like an entire village for all my parents. I was like their village, just one person. And I helped some of them start their childcare centers. I helped some of them get into that's where it started. You know what I mean? That's where my mentorship started there. Healthy eating. I mean, I was mentoring them on any number of things. And my brother, who actually played for the NFL, he would tell me all the time back then, he would say, why don't you set up a mentorship business? Why don't you set up a consulting business? There is no reason why, you should be doing this for free. And at the time, I thought, that is just that's just awful. Why would I charge people? But after so many years, you feel how it takes a toll on you, giving so much of yourself to people and sometimes not getting anything back. And so I do understand now that your time is very precious. And that's why I started to put the processes together so that people can learn the process of how to do something. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I think you have this skill, and I think that that also ties back into originally being a caretaker and having that innate personality, and your upbringing of being a caretaker ties in so well to, like you said, being that village because it's who you are, but it's also a skill, which
It
I know you
is.
mentioned is difficult to acknowledge, but it is because not
Yes.
everyone can do that. If that's
No,
not in
no.
you and that's not who you are, then that's
Yeah. It's something I
difficult.
have absolutely downplayed for myself, the skill to be a village, to be one person who operates like I'm 10 people
Mhm.
because it is a natural ability to me that I know I get from my mother. 'Cause that's definitely my mother. She's, just a all around skilled person. But I'm glad that now I've learned that, just don't keep giving yourself away constantly. But it is naturally who I am, so I'm gonna do it. I know that. I'm gonna help people, I'm gonna mentor because I can't help it. And it's not because I am just some greedy person. I just think that it is in a sense, it's a responsibility, especially if you have the gift, then it must be a responsibility to share it, but all the while just not allowing people to take advantage of you.
Absolutely. And people create businesses out of their skills and their knowledge all the time. So, as
Yeah.
much as this is more of a personal business type, it's definitely still a skill that you can teach
Hmm.
people and make a business model out of, which is what you've done, which is amazing. And
Right.
I know, speaking about business and also how things change and have changed over the last few years, I know COVID changed everything for you. I know,
Yes.
childcare collapsed and you pivoted into more group homes and behavioral health. So, how did you find the courage to bet on yourself again during such a trying time?
Oh my goodness. Again, okay. So it's like, okay, I've gone about 10 years strong as a childcare provider. I have relied on this income. It has got me through. And then, bam, COVID. COVID happens. And then my parents are not, they're not going to work. They are on unemployment. So I am just like, oh my goodness. I'm pretty devastated actually because it happened so out of nowhere. And when I say, things were in the negative, things were, and honestly, I'm politically right now, I'm being attacked for some of the things I had to do to stay afloat and pivot, such as taking business loans. Well, I'm a businesswoman. I had to do what I had to do, but the courage just came because I had to. Like you just you have to do something or it's a sink or swim moment. And I chose to swim. And I just went, and when I tell you record breaking time to get this business set up than I ever have in anything I've done, because I think I may have got up and operating in a matter of 6 weeks, where most people, I mean, I know people who have been trying to do this for years, but it just goes to show that, sometimes when you're really backed against the wall, you just gotta, you just gotta think on your feet. And that's what I did. So part of it was thinking on my feet. The other part of it was just, I know that I'm an entrepreneur by heart. And going back to work or going to work at a job just wasn't an option for me. So I do what I generally do in these moments. I think. I go somewhere quiet and think. That has been, like a savior to me in my life. and it's important that people do that sometimes because you got a lot of noise around you all the time and you can't hear your voice. Uh, and sometimes you may not even be able to hear that divine voice. You can't figure things out. So I did. I thought my way out of it, just like I did when I got into childcare. What can I do that will allow me to stay home with my children and make an income? And so now I have been home for so long in the house that I wanted to get out a bit more. I wanted to be able to care for people, have a business where I'm able to do that. But I'm tired of being home a lot with children. I've been in the house raising children for years now, my children, other people's children. So this is what I came up with, and I called some of my friends that I know do this for a living and have their agencies. And once again, I got assistance, and I did what I needed to do, and then before you know it, 6 weeks. I was, licensed, and I had
Wow.
my first client probably within 30 days.
That is super impressive. So tell me a little bit more because I'm curious, like when we talk about you pivoting into group homes and behavioral health and how that's not particularly like the childcare in-home service.
Yeah.
What exactly is it that you're doing in like the group home behavioral health setting?
Okay, so in childcare, okay, it's you're taking care of people's child while they're away at work. Well, in this setting, these individuals need 24-hour care. So you're going to need to get, 24-hour staff for them. Many of them need homes. So you're going to have to help solve that problem, whether you're getting the home yourself, obtaining a home, purchasing it, renting it from someone, whatever the case may be, or you're going in their home to provide that service. Many of these individuals have some sort of intellectual disability that they were born with. And then also, there is some sort of trauma they also came out of, which now cause some sort of behavioral disorder, where a lot of them they don't know how to control themselves, and so we are here to help them make better decisions. Definitely, that's an everyday uh issue that we have, helping them to make the best decisions for them. Some of them can obviously be, very they can be aggressive, but it just depends on the individual. You definitely, it's not like a across the board one size fits all situation. I have individuals who are just, you'd be like, what, I don't even see anything, going on. You could physically, you can't see anything. And if you have a conversation with them, you wouldn't be able to tell there was any kind of disability, and that's because it can be very volatile. But what I like about this industry is I'm able to provide care to young people. I mean, the youngest person that we are providing care for now is, well, she's like a toddler, so yeah, and then someone as old as, in their 80s or any age. So there's really any age you can provide these services. And I really like that diversity in this field, which is why I decided to get involved. And like I said, it got me out of the house setting. And because we are, out in the field doing any number of things, from making sure they're going to their doctor's appointments, to school, to work. Uh, that was really a nice change from what I was coming out of. So, and I think a lot of people, a myth that people have is that you actually don't have any time, or there's definitely a good work-life balance, and actually I have a much better work-life balance now that I'm in this field. And I'll tell you, every week it's self-care clock some at some point, so I definitely advise people, caregivers, to make time to care for yourselves, and go get that time to yourself, that time with your family.
Yeah, that's so important. You can't overexhaust yourself by only caring about everyone else. You definitely need
No.
to care about yourself too, for sure.
Yes,
And I
absolutely.
know there was a powerful moment when you said that you didn't realize opening my home to people was a skill? And how important do you think that mindset is for caregivers who want to become CEOs?
I mean, it's like anything else. You have to solve a problem. So I remember shortly after I got licensed, two sisters, I got a call for two sisters. Well, no one would take them. At this point in time, I really didn't have an available home for them to like live and where I can provide staff because it was so earlier in my journey. I'd just been licensed and they didn't have anywhere to go. So they actually had COVID, and hopefully I'm not breaking HIPAA laws. I don't think I am, but bottom line is they had nowhere to go, nowhere to go. And so I had to take them into my home. I mean, what am I going to do? Like, you know what I mean? And so that is something that many of the people that I know in this field and some of my best friends and mentors have had to do, especially when you're starting out. So that the that's the day my home became a group home.
Wow.
As well. And I had my children there. But like I said, being that we are coming out of childcare, my children very much know how to care for others. They know the importance of it. And I'm so glad that opening our home and our lives to people it's like secondhand nature to them too. And mind you, my youngest is 6. And so this is like not he has like no issue at all with being around people or having people in our home. It's like, oh, okay.
That
It's
definitely is
not
a
even
skill.
yeah. So I'm glad that but it is definitely something that you need to have a heart for and you need to it's like twofold because on the one hand, a business owner, you have to solve a problem. But on the other hand, especially with the situation I'm speaking of with the two sisters I had to take in, it's like I had to make a business decision and I had to make a human decision. What are we gonna do? So I chose, to just bring them home. And they stayed with me for about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, they were like one of my children. They're like one of my children now. Yeah, or 2 of my children.
Wow, yeah, that's a long time. Was that
Mhm.
a particular case in which was longer than,
Yes.
what?
Yes, because a
Yeah,
lot of times when you get these calls, from case managers or caseworkers, it's usually a temporary situation, and I can tell you just from doing what I do, generally when I get a call, it is, we need help now. It's often at night. It is like, I've gotten calls at midnight, like we need it now, right? We don't have anywhere. And you had to make that split decision. Am I gonna find help this person or you just really have to assess the situation. Can we provide care and services can we accommodate this individual? So, uh, again, lots of business decisions, lots of care decisions regularly. But
it's
typically,
definitely. Mhm.
yeah, so that's respite. So most individuals that you're called for a respite situation, meaning there was some sort of emergency, they need placed immediately. And really, normally I would say you may only need the time frame is like 2 weeks, while they're trying to figure other things out. But I can tell you most of the individuals that I got that call for were with me for years. They're with me for years. And because we provided such great outcomes, yeah, they said, no, we don't want to take them out of your care. They're where they should be. And that's a typical story for my staff and myself, for me and my team. That's typically what we do.
That's very impressive, and I'm sure also, like, very challenging. Was there, like, a
Yes.
time throughout all of these changes and all of these kids and troublesome times and all these changing factors, was there ever a time where you almost gave up? And if so, like, what was there something specific that made you pull
Well,
through?
yes, I will tell you, it's generally not the individuals we serve that makes me want to give up. Just like when I was in childcare, it was parents often who made me want to give up. So sometimes in this industry, it can sometimes be the supports, uh, their family members who are not as supportive as they should be, or sometimes they are enabling. It makes our jobs harder. It can be society. Right now, like I said, as I am campaigning for reelection, I am being attacked for things like the raising up property values and people claiming that these sort of homes cause more crime, which is not true. But those are the sort of things and challenges that come up that make you say, you know what, I don't even, this is a thankless job and I don't know if I can do it. So if any, and sometimes staff, when you don't have the right care team and you have people that just kind of doing their own thing and they're really not, following compliance, and that can definitely be a factor at times. But, when I get in those challenging moments, I just remember, honestly, I remember who I am. I remember my purpose, and I know that hard times are gonna come. That's part of that's a part of life. That's a part of business, and I just have to push through it, and I do, and I do.
Absolutely. That's so inspiring. Yeah, it's life and business. I had the same thought as you said it.
Right.
If you if you could go back to Crystal day one, starting your business, and whisper advice in her ear, what would you say?
Uh, I would definitely remind myself to keep myself on my prize. Don't let the naysayers get in your head because they are definitely coming. Just pay attention to what you're supposed to be doing, and don't worry about anyone else. It's selfish as sometimes, that may seem, that's what you need to do because people really hate to see a good thing. That as soon as people see someone trying to do something positive, they come and they try to disrupt that, they try to sabotage it, and that can be kind of hurtful initially. But if
Absolutely.
you just know that that is a part of life, that is a part of how things are when you are elevating, then you just keep going and you don't allow the distraction to take place, period. Now I know that now. And I think I know it then too. I knew it then too, but I still, you have to go through the process sometimes to let things unfold, even, when they happen, and see for yourself and learn from it, you know, and
Yeah,
move
absolutely.
forward with much more caution.
Yeah. Going through it and having that experience, I'm sure also makes it resonate in a different way than
It
just
definitely
knowing that
does.
or thinking
It
that.
does. If when people tell you that, it's one thing, but when you experience it for yourself, that wow, there are lots of people out there who really don't want to see you successful, who and not only don't want to see you be successful, but are willing to physically try to sabotage what you're doing and get others to team up against you. That is when it really resonates in a different way, and you believe it, and you have to be way more careful about who you have around you, who's in your circle, and who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, that's great advice, especially someone like you that's so powerful and intelligent and caring. I can see how that people may try to tear that down and not be
Yeah.
receptive of that, and mostly
Yeah,
probably because they're intimidated or jealous or anything to that degree, but to have that power and that knowledge to just tell yourself to keep going
it's
and not.
amazing that, yeah, that people attack you. So when I mentor people, I still try to prepare them for that. Just let them know that it's one thing we hear people say that all the time, just keep, but when people actually attack you, especially when it's people that you've really helped elevate someone's life, and those are the very people that go around and try to tear you down. Yeah, it can be a little tough at first to just work through that. But it happens, it's gonna happen, and you need to just recognize it and keep on going. Bottom line. My
Yeah,
message is always keep on going. It's stay the course.
Absolutely. Keep going. But it's also great, like, as a mentor to advise people of that because some people might have that idea that it's possible and then go through it and feel it in a different way, or some people may just not
Yeah,
even anticipate that or expect that or even know that it's possible that people can, do that to you.
right.
So I think that that's a
Which is
great
why
thing.
I try to give actual examples. I will show people, actual examples of people doing this, and because this can come from some of everywhere. I mean, believe it or not, there's caseworkers that just don't like you. And it's not like you did anything to them. But for the same reason that maybe you have a family member that doesn't like you or a friend that has an issue with you because you're doing well,
Hmm.
people don't like to see you elevate, past outside of that comfort of being on that level that they were on. Once people start seeing you elevate a little bit, they don't like that.
Right, right. And I'm sure on one of our upcoming episodes, we'll have the opportunity to go through some of those examples and hear more about that because I know I would love to learn more about that and hear more about those experiences. And I'm sure our listeners would too, because I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone can somewhat relate
That's
to it in
can
some
relate to
way
it for sure, for sure.
or learn something about potentially being
Absolutely.
more cautious in the way they live their life, whether a caretaker
Yeah.
or not.
Or
But
just pay attention to it when you see it,
the
the first
signs.
time. Yeah, the red
The
flags,
signs
pay
are there.
attention. Yeah.
Exactly. And I know as we wrap up this episode, I know I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this, like, I'm quote unquote just a caretaker, as we were saying. I'm not a CEO. What
Right.
would you say to them?
Okay, well, like I was saying this to you before, just because I'm naturally humble and I have humility about myself, it's just it comes natural to just want to care for your fellow man or someone in need. And like I said, to me, it's a responsibility as a human being. So so when people sometimes ask me about myself or they want me to kind of, break that down because to some people who don't have that, it's like a superpower. You know what I mean? But I would say it's what I use. It's the blueprint for my success. And I know that I'm not alone in that. There are people all over who have a very similar blueprint that you are just naturally humble, you do the right thing, and you can make a business out of being a good person. And I want people to know that.
I love
And when
that.
you do that, abundance comes even more so.
Absolutely. I know I certainly feel super inspired. I'm sure our listeners feel inspired as well. I feel so grateful to have even been able to have this conversation with you. I'm sure everyone listening probably feels the same way as well. I know on our future episodes, there's so much more I want to dive into with you, but this was an amazing conversation, amazing
Yes.
experience. Thank you so much for basically telling us all about yourself and about how you got here and about Care to CEO. And I don't know if there's any last words you want to say to our viewers or our listeners rather, but I think this was super
Yeah,
insightful.
thank you for being here and speaking with me. And for our listeners, there's going to be more to come, so please keep following. I am a mentor, as I've mentioned. I do have packages if you are, looking to learn about this business or get into the business or maybe get some guidance. So, stay tuned because I will be putting that information out there, how you can connect with me. And yeah, really, thanks for listening. Thanks for being who you are. And I look forward to working with many of you. And I look forward to just providing more information and just parts of who I am. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to episode 2. I can't wait for our next episode. And thank you again
Thank
to
you.
Crystal and to all of our listeners. And we will talk next episode on episode 2.